Boba Fett is one of the most skilled and effective bounty hunters in the galaxy, and as a result is highly sought after by many members of the shady criminal underworld. If Boba Fett is given a job, he will complete it without questions and without hesitation. But what happens when you don't pay Boba Fett? What happens when you go back on your word and break your honor? Well, it's scarier than you might think. So hit the subscribe button for more awesome Star Wars lore and Book of Boba Fett content, and let's get into it. The tale begins out in deep space with a ragged TIE fighter pilot named Jack professing to his squadron mates that he's very bored out here in the cold darkness. His fellow pilot agrees and asks, "Whose bad side did we get on to put out this assignment? Babysitting. It's embarrassing, Jack." Jack then responds with, "I'm bored," and his squad mate has had it with him, asking him to quit complaining. Being out here alone is bad enough. He then tells Jack that he'd rather be out here keeping an eye on this thing, whatever it is, than chasing rebel X-Wings over half the galaxy. Besides, their flagship called the Adjudicator should arrive in just under half an hour. Things then go silent. Then suddenly a massive blast of fire erupts from Jack's TIE fighter, sending debris flying in all directions. Jack's squad mate is horrified and wonders who could possibly be out there, all the way in restricted space. As he turns his ship around, he notices a large vertical vessel approaching him with an ominous set of weapons complementing it. Although he doesn't yet know it, it is Boba Fett and Slave One. The squad mate then shouts out one last call of despair, but Boba Fett swiftly blows his TIE fighter to shreds with a single blast of his cannons. Boba doesn't have any time to hang around though, as this isn't his primary mission. He's on a very time-sensitive bounty contract to retrieve an irreplaceable holo recording for a mysterious, very high-ranking figure. He has only 30 minutes remaining. Will he manage to reach his true target in time? Barreling towards the nearby wreckage of a Star Destroyer where he believes the holo recording to be, Boba immediately finds a spot to land his ship. The famed bounty hunter then steps out of his ship with his blaster firmly drawn and scouts out the area for more information. With the clock very quickly ticking down, Boba lowers himself into the depths of the Star Destroyer wreckage and has no idea what he might find when he enters. 25 minutes remaining. As Boba trawls his way through the mangled rubble, he spots something creepy and ominous in the doorframe directly in front of him. It is a stormtrooper clinging to the ceiling above him, but he's not alive. It is just the mere echo of a former trooper who has turned to nothing but a skeleton in armor. Boba isn't taking any chances with the skeleton because although he doesn't believe in the supernatural, why take the risk? The bounty hunter blasts the decrepit skeleton straight through the chest, and the body is torn bone from bone, clearly having grown fragile after being abandoned out here for quite some time. Boba then takes one glance back at the destroyed skeleton, but will never dwell on it again. Moving forward, Boba is abruptly ambushed by a pack of Minocs who fly right into his Mandalorian armor, giving him quite the fright. Being the fearless fighter that he is though, Boba draws his blaster and begins a rampage through the Minoc horde and scorches each of them to nothing more than a pile of ashes. Unfortunately for the hunter though, this isn't the end of them, and more rush towards Fett. Finally getting fed up with the foul creatures, Boba pulls out a noxious blast charge full of toxic gas and primes it ready to blast. Boba won't be affected by the noxious gas as he has his own filtration system within the suit, making this a very effective strategy. 20 minutes remaining. Boba then continues rushing forward with seemingly no end in sight, but he finally reaches a door which he thinks he can slice through. Boba then shows off his hidden computer slicing skills by attempting to hotwire the system. What Boba Fett doesn't realize, however, is that there is something ominous standing behind him. 15 minutes remaining. And now, on top of the ominous being standing behind him, that ship that the two TIE pilots said were coming to pick them up, called the Adjudicator, is barreling towards his location and is ready to bombard the ship to nothing but rubble. Back inside, Boba is once again ambushed, but this time by a horrid abomination of a droid, which fires its blaster cannons on the bounty hunter and forces him to take evasive action immediately. Boba blasts every droid he can, but he is eventually knocked over by the savage mechanical beast, one of the rare times a droid has gotten the better of Boba Fett. He then pulls out his grapple and manages to pierce the photoreceptors of the droid, finally putting a swift end to the mechanical menace. And not to mention, while this is happening, the Adjudicator is still racing towards the wreckage with Boba Fett inside. Boba then shreds the cabling out from the droid he just killed and uses its head as a swinging weapon, finally taking down the last enemy. Boba Fett has faced horrific challenges by this point and is honestly wondering whether this job is worth the credits. 10 minutes remain. Boba finally manages to slice the door open and is limping his way forward when he finally spots the elusive treasure. The data tape storing the holo recording is inside a little compartment and the bounty hunter is able to make quick work of it. Boba retrieves the prized data chip and is ready to return it to his mysterious client so that he can finally wash his hands of this horrid place, hopefully to never return. 5 minutes remain. Boba then rushes out back towards the surface and makes it to the final ladder of the Star Destroyer, and at last he gets a glimpse of his escape. If he doesn't make it off world in these remaining 5 minutes, he'll be nothing but a pile of floating dust. He then ignites his jetpack and bursts out through the last manhole up onto the planet above. Finally, the bounty hunter has safety in sight. 1 minute remains. Boba then sprints with all of his might towards the Slave One, ready to blast away from this wretched place. 30 seconds remain. Boba enters the cockpit of the ship and puts his hand on the accelerator with adrenaline rushing through his veins. 5 seconds remain. Boba then punches it and just barely manages to scrape off the surface of the planet while a red fury engulfs the area behind him and destroys the entire destroyer where he just stole his data chip from. Now the only question is, who is Boba's mysterious client? Back on Coruscant, Boba Fett returns to his client, who is a stern, top-flight military man for the Empire. The Imperial then brags about how impressive his ship was, even all mangled up and broken like it was. He called it the Anya Karu, after a lover he had recently lost. He then reveals to Boba that the droids inside were his personal hunter-trainer droids, which were gifted to him by a Rodian warlord. He didn't know if they were supposed to be used for hunting or training, so he just used them as bodyguards inside the ship. He then asks Boba,
"Were they still intact?"
Boba then coldly says, "Not when I left." The Imperial is saddened by this, but he accepts that Boba had to do what he had to do. He says that Captain Aaron Harcourt was a hero of the Empire once, and because of this he was granted certain privileges. That was until his ship went down over that barren world and he was blamed for the loss. Captain Harcourt was not at fault at all for this loss, as it was attacked by a team of rebel operatives and taken down. The Empire even had an inquiry into the ship's destruction, but it was all just for show. They needed someone to blame, and Aaron Harcourt was that man. Even with 30 years experience as a commanding officer, the higher rungs of Imperial leadership had no problem ending his career, rather than admitting that they lost one of their capital ships to a team of rebel saboteurs. Hey, maybe Cassian Andor was on that rebel team. After this lengthy rant, Captain Harcourt asks Boba if he managed to collect his little data chip from the vessel, and Boba silently places the box on the table in front of the captain. Harcourt is enamored and tears fill his eyes as he opens the box, with a holo recording of his lover playing. Over and over again, his lover repeats how much she misses him and hopes to see him soon. The captain then tells Boba that they met while he was still in the academy, but 3 years ago she sadly passed away. Although it was such a small thing, Captain Harcourt could not let it be scrapped with the rest of the ship, since it was all he had left of her. He then says when he gave the order to abandon the ship after the rebel saboteurs took it down, there was no time to go back for it. But he knew that if anyone in the galaxy could bring it back, it would be Boba Fett himself. Now after this is where things take a turn for the worse. Much worse. Boba asks for the other half of the money, since they agreed to pay half up front and half after completion. The downtrodden captain, however, says that he doesn't have any money left, but if Boba can overlook this shortfall, he will keep it quiet and his reputation will not suffer. Bad idea. Boba Fett gives the old Imperial an ominous stare, which he knows means only one thing. The answer is no. Captain Harcourt then pulls open the ornate golden box, and inside is the hologram of the woman he loves. He tells himself that he's had a good life, but ever since his lover Janelle was taken from him, things have been so lonely. Not to mention he is still incredibly bitter about having his ship removed from him on what he thinks are false grounds. Over and over again, the hologram plays the same message. A message of Janelle professing her love and hoping that they can be together again. That day never came. The captain tells Boba Fett that he just wanted to see her once again, and to have her say his name just once more, but that was never to be. He then breaks down into a flurry of tears, professing his love for her, while Boba Fett's cold blaster barrel rests on his head. With a single blast, Boba ends this tragic story. The message of his lover continues playing coldly as Boba Fett walks away without an ounce of regret or remorse. That is what happens when you fail to pay Boba Fett. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe for more awesome Star Wars stories just like this. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.